Hi, my name is Mark Christensen. I am the head engineer and owner of Engine Room Audio in New York City. Been doing our thing here at Engine Room for 22 years, something like that. I do a lot of mastering, I do a lot of mixing, and all things audio. Well, our previous location, we were kind of on the border between Chinatown and Little Italy and Soho, on Grand Street. And that was a smaller facility. This one's pretty big. We're like 11,000 square feet here. But when we were looking for a new space, one of the things we wanted was to try to build a bigger live room with a higher ceiling. And so I was looking at a lot of different, real estate all throughout New York City. Came to this location, and at first, I didn't think that it was going to be all that interesting, but I started popping ceiling tiles just so that I could see kind of what was above the drop ceiling. And when I got up to this level, this mezzanine level, when I popped the ceiling tile, it was just blackness. I couldn't actually see. And so I think I took my iPhone and shined it up in there, and I was shocked at, there was an additional like 20 feet of space up there. They had put this drop ceiling, just, the regular 8-foot ceiling height or whatever. So that was a big draw because, finding a high ceiling is a difficult thing to do. Also, we kind of, even though it's the 22nd floor, we actually exist on three kind of little levels. There's the mezzanine level, which is what we're in now. Then there's kind of a middle level, which I call the production level, where all of the smaller studios are. And then there's kind of the 22nd floor proper, which is another couple of steps down from that. The guy that owns the building had a difficult time leasing this space because of the fact that it was kind of divided up that way. But for us, it was perfect. So, I was able to get kind of a long-term lease, which was necessary because, the amount of money you put into building a studio like this is just ridiculous. We do have floated floors in all the different control rooms. I don't know how much gyprock board we used to build this place, but it was insane amounts of materials, and just getting it up here and getting it built out was a big challenge. Well, here at Engine Room, we have this very nice tracking facility with a live room. We do have a lovingly restored and maintained G Plus 4000 series console. We have a lot of sort of tubey analog outboard gear in addition to the SSL. Obviously we're running all of the most up-to-date kind of, Pro Tools stuff. And we try to provide full service recording environment. We have large grand piano, we have a big tracking room, got drum booths, piano rooms, all that kind of stuff. We do have the mastering facilities downstairs, which were designed by Fran Manzella. It's a highly acoustically tuned space with custom speakers, custom power amps. It's a very accurate room. I try to get Fran in here every couple of years to just kind of make additional tweaks, We have 7 production rooms, which are, floated floors, acoustically tuned, very nice spaces that I lease out to what we call resident producers. And then we also have sort of a couple of larger subtenants, one of which is a production company that's involved mostly in audio post stuff. And then we actually also have a music PR firm downstairs as well that's leasing space from us. So from the beginning of Engine Room's move out of my loft, I knew that I was going to need to try to have sort of a larger footprint. New York is a super treacherous market, real estate wise. And if you can't keep the cash flow happening in a fairly consistent way, it's almost impossible just to stay in business. I mean, we've been in business now almost 25 years, but a lot of that has to do with this facility itself and, having sort of those different kinds of revenue streams happening. But also creatively, it's interesting. I mean, that was as much a part of that decision as the money part of it was just having a whole bunch of different kinds of people here. And there's some really great synergies that happen. I mean, one of the guys who does a lot of the code writing for Propeller Head has a room downstairs, also happens to be a really good tech for the SSL. There's jingle writers, there's all kinds of people down there, and there's interesting sort of collisions, between those various sort of artistic spheres, and it creates a pretty cool environment. We try to have the best mic collection we can possibly have. We try to offer everything that you would need to great records. Oh yeah, we're using the console every day, definitely. A console provides a couple of different things that I think are very important, in the process of making records. At the top of the list maybe is that it just sounds better. I mean, I know there are people mixing decent sounding records in the box now. And I'm a mastering engineer, so maybe I'm a little overly fastidious or something. But the truth is, you still can't make records inside the box that sound the way that records sound through a console. So there's also just the sort of the workflow issues. One of the things that I find really annoying if I'm just working strictly inside the box is, having to kind of flip through menus all the time if I'm trying to find a particular EQ or if I'm trying to find compressors, that kind of thing. It's much easier just to be able to see it on the console and reach over and, make the adjustments that you need to make. Even just outside the idea of the console, just the physical actual EQs in the mic pre's and all of that, on an SSL have a particular, first of all, it's a very high standard. They just sound great. But also there's also a sort of a character, in essence of what that sounds like, which is something that I want too. So I still find that the people who you work on a console after they've done that, they feel like that's really how I would rather make records. Well, I think here at Engine Room, what we're providing is kind of like what recording studios have always provided in a sense. I think that people who make records are discovering that you need kind of an environment where you're focused on sound. We provide obviously, the best equipment that we can get our hands on. We provide the best kind of maintenance for that equipment so that it always works. But it's partly the environment as well. My feeling is that as people sort of move away from wanting to make records in their kitchens, they're looking for a facility that offers them what they need, everything from just simple support staff, bring me a cup of coffee, but all the way up to the equipment itself. We do kind of make an effort to make sure that we sort of have this vertical thing going on where people can make records here at a wide range of budgets. It's not just, we're not just a big SSL room. We also have some of the smaller spaces as well, some of which have SSLs in them too. But so we're trying to kind of cater to that kind of client. And one of the great things about that too is that we kind of can be part of those artists' trajectory as they get more successful too, because we definitely have had artists who are working in some of our smaller spaces, but then they start to get a little traction, get a little money, and they're able to kind of move within the facility to some of the larger rooms, and we get to keep working with them. I mean, I think the Achilles heel of some of the studios is that they offer a very kind of specific type of service, which is cool, but if your client base is not always in that sort of narrowly defined market, then you lose them. Either they are looking for bigger, better spaces, or they're looking for spaces that maybe aren't as big. Well, I think that a lot of artists who are used to working in their own personal, smaller spaces are surprised by a few things when they start working in a bigger studio. One of those things is just probably the sonics of it. If the rooms are tuned, if you have far field monitors and near field monitors, oftentimes they're hearing their own material in ways that they haven't heard before. And I think that once they start to experience that, it's hard to go back. Once you hear kind of what things are supposed to sound like, or you hear a more accurate version of what you're working on, you at that point have a better set of binoculars or whatever, and it's very kind of hard to go back to something that maybe is less, lesser. The other thing too that I think that people are rediscovering is that studio culture is really it's an important thing. A lot of our clients are sort of urban pop clients. Sometimes those kinds of projects are in a sense, almost kind of community based, so they do need just a physical location to be bringing people. If they've got featured artists that are coming by to do verses or, whatever it is, they need a centralized location that they can go to that's not somebody's bedroom or whatever. Again, once they're here, I think some of the advantages of having that support staff, when they're here, if they don't like the way the mic sounds, they can just get on the phone and ask for another one. Like, let's try something else. As studios have always hopefully done, but we provide a support system so that they can make art, right? That they can do their thing. I mean, that's really what it's about. I mean, before the band that I was in, I actually owned restaurants for a while in New York. And there's a connection between the way that a studio should operate and the way that a restaurant operates. They're both service industries at the end of the day. You want to be able to walk in, focus on creating your art. You don't want to have to worry about, anything technical. You don't really have to worry about making coffee or lunch or any of that kind of stuff. Like, you want that all to be sort of taken care of so that you can focus on doing what you do. A couple of years ago, we started having students here on kind of a apprenticeship or paid internship basis. Obviously, we do have regular interns as well, but I started with this program where we do have students that are here just kind of on a daily basis, just sort of part of our operations. I find that it sort of enriches the experience. I find that it helps me to actually be a better engineer. I mean, when you're having to explain something to somebody and think it through yourself, just in order to explain it, it kind of helps you get a better grasp on what's going on as well. It also keeps me kind of in touch with, what the super young kids are thinking about things, and it's overall, I think it's a positive thing. Yeah, and we do have kind of a curriculum happening sort of concurrently with their kind of participation, right? So some of the days that they're here, they're just helping us set up sessions and acting kind of as interns. But some of the days that they're here, we do have a text material that we go through with them. And so there's kind of a combination of the book learning stuff as well as the kind of, boots on the ground kind of actual experiential stuff. Yeah, well, that's a really good question. We actually fight to try to maintain that. We've tried to fight to keep a pretty wide range of clients. In the recent years, most of our famous clients have definitely been urban pop, and so we are known kind of for that in a certain sort of group of people. They think of us in that way, but at the same time, like I mentioned, we are tracking all kinds of stuff, and we kind of will go out of our way actually to try to broaden that base and make sure that we publicize when we do get other kinds of projects. As a studio, I've never wanted to be pigeonholed in one particular style of music, and that actually has worked to our advantage because there's a couple of very famous sort of urban people who have taken advantage. They've heard, oh, you guys also do this kind of tracking. I've done a lot of tracking for people that are sort of working outside their genre in a sense. They work in their own lane here, but they'll also take advantage of the fact that we are able to do other kinds of things here, and they'll sometimes work outside of their lane too. For me, like in kind of a selfish way, I mean, that's also why I was motivated to have a facility where we did have such a wide range of services. We're not just a mastering lab, we're not just a tracking facility. I'm sort of selfishly trying to keep myself interested, and that's one of the ways that we do that is by trying to cater to as many different kinds of musics as we possibly can. We do choral work here, we do gangster rap here. We do a huge variety of things, and it's actually fun when those things collide. I mean, there's some unreleased stuff that's pretty interesting. I've had before they disappeared. I had the Harlem Boys Choir down here doing some stuff with, some rappers who shall remain nameless. But it was fun stuff, and those kinds of collisions are cool.